Lightning like Steve McQueen. I'm in the fast lane when the light turns green. And I built tough, I ain't nothing but grit. Cause I made rugged blood, sweat, and spit. Yeah, like a horse I fly. Better push yourself in for a bumpy ride. I like to play hard, but I work harder. And I weather the storm cause I'm built stronger.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? We are back. We are live. The Freight Coach Morning Show. Technically the morning show out west here still. We are a little bit later than normal today. But you know what? I'm in the trenches with you guys. All right. I'm out here building all of this stuff with you as well. All right. I don't just do this live show every single day. Obviously, I put out a lot of content and everything else, but I do have other companies that I work in. And, you know, frankly, I am dedicated to coming to you guys live every single weekday at the exact same time as much as I possibly can. But, you know, I'm going to be out there. When I travel and everything else, you guys, I bring everything with me and we go out on the road and we do it. And, you know, we try our best to do it at the same time every single weekday because I know you guys are busy as well. And I appreciate all the support that you guys show. But at the end of the day, let's get some. Let's fucking go. We got three industry. We got actually, I got four. And if we got time for the fourth one, I'll bring it up. One of these ones just absolutely fucking cracks me up every time I see this in the headlines recently. But here we are, you guys. It's day 78 of the Freight Coach Morning Show here. Day 78 of the Freight Coach tally of us going live every single weekday. And bringing you guys three industry headlines that we can. As always, you guys, this show is brought to you by my friends over at VHub. And we got some changes on the app, which is good for anybody out there as well. Because we, you know, at the end of the day, you guys, access to trailers, whether you're a carrier or a broker alike, you're never going to not need them. And, you know, furthermore, if you're an owner op or, you know, you got a couple of trucks in your fleet and one of your trailers needs to go in the shop, you shouldn't have to shut your truck down with that as well. And frankly, if you're a broker, you need to think of additional solutions to provide to your customers in those moments. And you know, you can create a drop trailer pool and do all of this stuff for your shippers right now. And what we got going today, as you can see, you get paid to do this, you guys. Like I want to remember that if you're a driver out there right now, you get paid to move this trailer, and that's on top of the revenue that you get by throwing that from the freight that you put in the back of that trailer. They have them right now in Glade Spring, Virginia. And it needs to go up to Orting, Washington, which is like 20 miles outside of Tacoma. And you get paid $15.50 to do that. So you can grab a trailer out of here and then find a reload or a load in that area, heading out there to the Seattle SeaTac area as well. You get paid $15.50 to do that. They have the same one over in Paragould, Arkansas as well, which is just outside of Little Rock there. And again, going up to just outside of Tacoma in Orting, Washington. So hit it up, you guys. If you get paid $15.50 to do this, this is going to help you offset some of this sky-high fuel that we're seeing out there in the market and everything right now. And then also out in San Diego, you guys, or San Diego, as Ron Burgundy calls it. San Diego going over to Dallas, Texas. $600 to do that. And there's a ton of freight that moves out there as well. So again, you guys utilize this to your advantage. There is so much opportunity out there, and our relationships with our shippers have to go a lot deeper than surface level, what we do out there. And then again, hit up my friend Xavier Campos. He'll hopefully be in the audience on this a little bit later show today, as well as my friend Stacy Steen. She'll be out there. Hit him up, you guys, vhubapp.com, and see what they can do for you guys. Let me see here. Where are we at? Day 78 of the Freight Coach tally of there being a truck parking issue as well as a facilities issue out there. And again, I'm going to bring this up every single day until there is a driver who, drivers who are communicating with me, stop telling me that there's issues out there. Again, I'm not doing this for vanity metrics. I'm not doing this for anything other than to see meaningful change out there to help support our hardworking men and women who are behind the wheel. And again, I see both sides of it. But again, as I say, literally every single day, if you're going to require that a driver can't use your facilities, let them drop their trailer and let them leave while you're offloading it. You know, put it in a dock, do what you need to do. But again, I don't think any one of us would sit somewhere for 8 hours and not be able to use a restroom. Fuel. I don't know about you guys, but I guess I don't know why people are celebrating. Like, yes, it's cool to see that fuel is dropping, but like to celebrate, like, oh, this is the biggest drop that we've seen in history. Well, yeah, it was also the fucking most expensive that we've seen in history as well. So I don't know why it's a cause for celebration when there is a massive drop right now, because we're still literally almost $2 a gallon above where we were last year. So We're at $5.26 a gallon right now. Again, it's awesome to see it trending back in the good guys' favor, but it's still nothing to celebrate because it's still fucking astronomically expensive. I get all my information from the EIA. EIA.gov is where I get that from. And yeah, so before I get into the articles and everything else, shout out to all my hardworking single parents out there. My wife's gone for a couple of weeks. She's with her parents, and it's just me and my son right now. And Jesus, it's I appreciate my wife if she's listening to this right now, or when she will hear this later. I appreciate you, sweetheart. I love you. And for anybody else out there who's a single parent making it work, hats off to you. You are doing a lot of value in there. Let's see. What do we have here? What should we start talking about first and foremost? Because there's a lot of stuff that came out there today. Let's pull over some of these articles here. What do we have first? First one that we're going to break down today is from TT News, ttnews.com. The FMCSA is accepting carrier applications for apprenticeship driver pilot. As of July 26, they are accepting applications for motor carriers interested in participating in the agency's safe driver apprenticeship pilot program for 18 to 20-year-old truck drivers to operate interstate. The FMCSA said the program, which was announced in January, that it will allow a maximum of 1,000 carriers and 3,000 apprenticeship drivers to participate. The initiative has wide support across the trucking industry, but concerns have been expressed by some carriers and trade organizations that some of the data reporting requirements could overly burdensome and discourage small carriers from participating. The pilot drivers who already hold intrastate, and for anybody out there, intrastate means that they can't leave the state of Arizona. Let me see. It sets a strict training regime for participating drivers, in-cab supervisors, and motor carriers to follow. Industry leaders are hopeful that the program will help bring fresh talent to the truck driving ranks and help mitigate nationwide shortage of drivers. To date, drivers under 21 have been limited to intrastate only. The FMCSA said it will monitor carrier and driver performance on that program to ensure safety. The pilot includes 2 probationary periods, one for 120 hours and the other for 280 hours. And it mandates specific vehicle safety technologies, including driver-facing cameras being installed by trucks to use by the participants. And again, I am just absolutely slow with math. So I'm going to pull out my old calculator here. If we break that down, so a whole 10 weeks of training. I am in support of this program, but the amount of on paper, but when you start peeling it back, like 400 hours of training, that's nothing. That's 10 weeks. Excuse me. 10 weeks of training isn't enough. I think that if there's going to be a way to do that, there has to be a longer program, because I think, like, in my opinion, that's the root cause of a lot of the issues that we see in this industry is a lack of training. And that's something that I want to see change. I think that's the root cause. But we're only treating symptoms, and we're only going after to treat a symptom here. And I think, like, lowering this and doing a 10-week program, again, I'm not saying that anybody who participates in this is going to be bad, but I think, like, there needs to be more training on all sides of the industry. The drivers may transport goods across state lines. It says only under the supervision of an experienced driver. An experienced in-cab supervisor is defined of one of 26 years old, held a CDL, and been employed for at least 2 years, and has at least 5 years of interstate experience and had no preventable accidents reported. Again, I just think that 5 years experience is great and all, but, like, I would like to see that pushing more towards, like, 10 years experience and 10 years of no preventable accidents out there. And that it must, the first probationary period includes at least 120 hours of on-duty time, which 80 hours of those are driving time. So again, like, that's 40 hours less. So technically it's 9 weeks of training. Let's see. The candidate, during this time period, the motor carrier must ensure the candidate completes the required driving time. It's competent in each of the following areas: backing and maneuvering in close quarters, pre-trips, fueling, weighing loads, weight distribution, sliding tandems, coupling, uncoupling procedures, trip planning, truck routes, and navigating permits and map reading. And yeah, it is an apprenticeship may drive. let's see, complete the 120-hour probationary period and then the 280 hour. However, the apprentice is still considered to be participating in the Safe Driver Apprenticeship Pilot Program until the driver reaches 21. It is. Okay, but and here's the thing: if the participating person in this is disqualified for a major offense, they'll be disqualified from it. I think that like, whose fault is that though? Is it the trainer's fault at that point? And yeah, Jeremy, you got some good mountain driving. Yeah, that would be a great one. How about mountain driving in the winter time? And everything else. And there is so much that, again, I don't have all the fine print in front of me. And just through this article and what I'm reading here, it's all surface level information. But like, this is the third time that we've spoken about these articles or this pilot program on my show here. And again, I don't think it's enough. All right. Like, I throw all the fucking arrows at me you want. We need more training. All right. 400 hours of training is not enough. All right. That's not enough at all. There are so many different things out there where it's like, we need, like, I would love to see like a 6 months. I would like to see 6 months of actual training that goes out there, of riding along with drivers and everything else. And then on top of that, like, I just think that the fundamental issues of this industry start with a lack of training. That's where it all begins. And then there's just too many outs with it. Like, there needs to be and again, like, I'm not a fan of government mandates or the government telling us what to do unless it comes to something along these lines. I think that at the end of the day, if you're 18 years old and in the eyes of the United States government, if you are old enough to go and die in war, you're old enough to drive a truck, in my opinion. I would agree with that. I would even, go as far as saying that if you're 18 years old, you should be able to drink legally in this country too. But that's kind of beside the point right now. But again, I think like we need to have like an actual training program. Like, I think that, at the end of the day, drivers, in my opinion, are like pilots. That, you have your captain and you have your first officer. And I think that you should go through an apprenticeship program that goes longer than that. I also I would love to see getting professional drivers out there on some like maintenance, like light maintenance stuff that, so if they're on the side of the road, they know how to change a hose or do something along. And I'm sure there's a lot of drivers out there who can do that. But again, I think that having additional training on the front end, and then again, reaction times, to Jeremy's point on mountain driving and everything else, like, not everything can be done when it's sunny and 80 degrees. Like, there needs to be some real actual training out there and everything else. And then furthermore, chaining up and everything. I mean, the fact that there's somebody out there on the side of the road, when I lived up in the Sierras in Northern Nevada in Reno, and there's a chaining service on the side of the road. Like, hey, I like the value add of that, of like the luxury of it. But, and it was brought there because I spoke to a buddy of mine who's a member of the Nevada Highway Patrol. They did that because there was too many drivers who didn't know how to chain up. And that's a thing that needs to be done as well. And yes, I would say that is very accurate, Jeremy, that there's too many inexperienced trainers training new drivers. There's a lot of too many inexperienced people in this industry trying to say that they know what they're talking about, but they fucking don't. So yeah, that's another conversation for another day. But again, it's a good article. There's good information in there, again, from ttnews.com, the FMCSA accepting carrier applications for their apprenticeship program. I think it's a step in the right direction, but the framework of it needs to change. And I think that there needs to be a little bit more stringent requirements to that. But yeah, it's definitely going to help because, again, we need to bring new drivers into this. All right. There's not a driver shortage, in my opinion, but the average age of the driver is up there. And we, as a society, or not as an industry, not a society, as an industry, we need to put our best foot forward to get people excited to come into transportation. And again, another one of those root cause issues that I bring up every single day. We should probably change the fucking parking and bathroom issue as well while we're at it. Because who the fuck would want to come do this for a job if they can't even use the bathroom? Take that into consideration out there. But again, that was for ttnews.com. Second article, And this one was we were talking about this, what day was it? Yes, Monday. Today's Wednesday. This was on Monday. We were talking about this as well. This one was from fleetowner.com, and it was execs struggled to gauge capacity trends ahead of peak season. And I think this is a very telling sign that anybody out there right now, it's going to be very difficult to properly plan for what this year is going to bring, the rest of this year, what it is going to bring. We're going to have to execute no matter what. We got to show up. We got to provide solutions for our customers, but it's very challenging to sit here and say, this is exactly what's going to happen. And when you see all of these companies that are in here, Landstar, Knight-Swift, some of the biggest providers out there, Knight-Swift CEO David Jackson thinks that this freight cycle is starting to look like no other before because of the confluence of strong demand and high fuel and equipment prices, along with the 2018 advent of the ELD mandate. Excuse me. But just what that means for the upcoming peak season remains very unclear for carriers and their customers. Speaking to analysts and investors at Knight-Swift's second order earnings call on the 20th of July, Jackson said that the industry is heading into 2022's peak season with a different backdrop than in previous cycles. Restrained by higher entry, operating, and repair costs, excess capacity isn't there as it was in the past because small trucking companies have retreated somewhat from the market, particularly spot rates have fallen. We've never seen supply come out so early and appear to be coming out at the same pace, if not maybe even earlier. That demand is starting to be waning. All indicators are that supply is contracting as we speak. Again, it's could feel like more orderly and be less of a drop off is what he's saying. I think that, again, the numbers of revocations and everything, according to the FMCSA's database, are very much in line with how they've been performing over the last 2 years. So I don't think they're leaving the market at the same thing, but they're also entering the market at the exact same pace as well. This is coming after Knight-Swift recorded a $219 million in revenue and profits of $219 million on revenues of nearly $2 billion in Q2, compared to $153 million and 1.3 billion respectively in the second quarter of 2021. The truckload units revenue per tractor rose 11% year over year to more than $54,000 as the company has emphasized shorter routes. Let me see here. Just Adam Jackson, their CFO, they have less visibility in the compared to previous 2 years that are out there. And then the sentiment was echoed by Landstar, which also recorded Q2 profits of nearly $113 million on $2 billion in revenue. They were up 22%. Asked on his team's conference call about the peak season, the president and CEO had said that he's hearing numbers of different forecasts from customers, but at the same time, he added many customers are themselves not sure about demand and are still looking to lock up trucking capacity should things turn out to be better than we now expect. That saying it's difficult for Landstar to forecast. The conflicting messages get us to a stable environment for the next 2 months. How's that? My gut is upside down because no one can tell what's about to happen, they're saying. So I guess the answer to the question is no one knows. And I would agree with that. I think that, again, we can throw our best guess out there, but nobody knows what the fuck's going to happen 60 days from now, And again, I think that's like the thing is there's a lot of different data points that are out there, you guys. There's a lot of conflicting data points that are out there, and no one data source is right. All right. No one data source is accurately predicting anything because it's not. There's too many different variables that go on in this market. And again, when you're pulling from the subset of data that some are, it's only with large enterprise shippers. All right. It's only with large fleets that are reporting this data. So it's skewed. All right. I'll call it what it is. A lot of the data out there is skewed. It's only towards a certain subset that's out there. And that's why you need multiple data sources, though. So you can come up with the best forecast for your operation. Okay. And that's what we need to do now more than ever. Is it's tough to throw out what is going to happen. All right. I think that we know is going to happen is freight volumes, it seems, based off of the data that is out there from multiple data sources, it's going to remain steady. For how long that lasts, I don't know. I don't want to sit up here and say that 60 days or 90 days or 180 days. I just know that as freight volumes are continuing to remain steady. And, one thing I wanted to point out to you guys about what Knight-Swift is doing is the shorter length of hauls. So to me, that shows that out in their market, what they're seeing is those ones are paying better. All right. And that's the truth. Like, I think people would be shocked at what you can make on a local load if you just stayed local Phoenix. You did 2 turns here in the valley, you could probably make $1,000 a day doing that. Gross. $1,000 a day. I wouldn't be surprised if you could do that. Again, pay attention to this, you guys. And again, like we were talking about yesterday, like remove the rates from this. And this is where I want drivers who are out there and even brokers who are out there, remove the rate, remove that number, pay attention to the cyclical nature of this, the seasonality of this, the peaks and the valleys of freight flows. I want you to, because they tell a story. All right. And then when you do start plugging those rates in there, you can see because again, I hate national averages. Yes, there's validity to that, but I hate national averages because there is no one size fits all thing. And then I think to anybody out there right now, I think you need to, if you're looking to lock in long-term rates with your customers, or at least for the next 60 days, pull a 60 or a 90-day freight lane history off of your stuff. And we talked about this yesterday, so I won't go into a ton of detail on it. Check out yesterday's show on the Coffee with the Freight Coach podcast that was out there for the Freight Coach Morning Show. We broke that down on how to do that to start looking for all of those patterns in stuff that's out there. So again, that one was from fleetowner.com. Fleet execs struggle to gauge capacity trends ahead of peak season. And again, all the links of all the articles that I break down, you guys, are put up there on the YouTube channel, the Freight Coach, as well as the Coffee with the Freight Coach podcast, which is on iTunes and Spotify. All the links are out there. Again, read these articles on your own. Don't take what I say as gospel. I know a little bit. I put my experience level up there with just about anybody's, but at the end of the day, y'all got to operate your operations best, which you see best. And yeah, but next article is from my man, William Cassidy. This one was literally just released this morning. And the beauty of going on a little bit later this morning was this one came about because I absolutely love when I see an article from Bill Cassidy out there. Truckload executives see U.S. capacity under pressure. Ooh, here's another one. And it goes on to say that the great truckload capacity crunch that was caused by COVID is now over, but shippers may not get much breathing room or relief. New capacity hasn't flooded the highways, and available capacity remains tight outside of the spot market. And it goes on to say, they talked to Knight-Swift about this. Its capacity is under pressure. And it's kind of the same thing about what we were talking about in the previous article, that it's tough to gauge during the first part about it. But here's what they talk about. It's not clear if capacity is leaving the industry or flowing to different sectors within trucking. And during the earnings calls recently, they pointed to a loss of smaller companies. But we're also seeing drivers looking for new opportunities. That means that some drivers are, again, it's like if you're transitioning, if you're out a smaller fleet and you're like, I want the stability of a larger fleet, that doesn't mean that they're leaving the industry, So, and it goes on to say that there is going to be a loss of that. But requests for EINs among transportation warehouse companies were up 75% over June of 2019 and 32% higher in the trend line out there of 2017 to 2019. In 2021, truck transportation companies represented about 55% of all business establishments within transportation warehousing sector out there, and slightly higher than 2019, showing growth in trucking firms, if not capacity. So again, it's let me see here. And this is the part of the article. This bottom part here is what I wanted to talk to you guys about. The great capacity shift. Many of the approximately 195,000 new trucking companies that received authority since July of 2020 were likely set up by truck drivers that either lost their jobs or left larger companies during the pandemic and set out to chase record breaking spot market rates, which were going on at the time. To an extent, it represented a shift in capacity. It did create a cushion, albeit an expensive one, for shippers who couldn't get contract capacity in 2020 and 2021. Now that shift appears to be reversing, with capacity becoming more abundant on the spot market, not because of new trucks, but lower demand as freight shifts to contract in the carriers. The rapid increase in truck employment for April to June shows some of the shifts are out there from a big a shift in employers. Let me see here. And then the JOC Truckload Capacity Index, which measures truck counts at large publicly owned trucking companies, increased from 85 to 91% over the course of 2021, and then dipped to 91.1% in the first quarter of this year. And it hasn't been above 90% though since 2008. And a preliminary reading shows that the truck count in the core index of the group carriers climbing 2 to 2.5%. On the truckload side, capacity is loosening, but there's still a lot of uncertainty, is what Harris Rainbow said. He's the chief revenue officer of Transportation Insights. Where carriers can want to run nowadays is not where they wanted to run in the past. Before the pandemic, you could get carriers to drive that were taking cross-country freight, and they got to, and during COVID, they got used to running shorter lanes and everything. Trucking companies and shippers also changed their networks during the pandemic, which companies and shipping from new locations, where capacity is available, is going to depend on the lane, Rainbow said. There may be more capacity available in all those big city lanes like Atlanta, Dallas and Atlanta, where you're always going to have rates that are elevated or not really declining much, but in lower capacity and lower volume lanes may shrink, he said. Yeah, it's, again, I think that the strategy for a lot of people moving forward is to move away from those power lanes. You know, those lanes are always going to be affected the most. All right. Those are going to be the overflooding of your competition. Is going to be on those power lanes, the Atlanta to Chicago's, the Atlanta to Dallas's and stuff like that. That's where the spot market rates are going to drop the most, and they're going to stay the lowest the longest. So again, it's like, it's just transitioning out of your, it's just about transitioning out of your normal operating, you guys, and doing it a little bit different. And that's going to be for the foreseeable future, because again, those are where you can get that consistent business. It's not going to be on the power lanes. It's going to be on those secondary lanes, those secondary cities. You know, you can find business out there. There's a truck for every load in America. All right. I'm convinced of that. And I think you would be pleasantly surprised if you're an owner operator or a small fleet that jumping outside of the major metro areas is going to play to your favor a lot more than you may realize. The article ends up with shipper power. Shippers themselves are responsible for some of the reported additional capacity when shifting freight. They reset routing guides that led to fewer rejected shipments and improved efficiency. And that was a sign of improved efficiency. Capacity became more available out there. And then everyone wants to secure business ahead of the peak season, whether that peak is large or not. There's a different opinions on what the next 6 months is going to look like, is what it goes out to say from the shippers out there. Again, that article was from JOC.com, Truckload Executive see U.S. capacity under pressure, from my friend Bill Cassidy. I think that, again, the opportunities from everything that I've read and continue to read out there, the opportunities are going to be there. All right. It's just not going to be as easy as it was, but that's not to say that there isn't high paying freight on the market still. All right. And I want you to be very, very, very aware of that. There is high paying freight that is out there. It's just not on those power lanes. All right. Those power lanes that you guys want, you know, the first come, first serves, the 20,000 pound loads. You can't do that anymore. All right. You can't demand that I only haul 20,000 pounds, because if you do, you're going to be sitting there for a while. And then you got to think, like, the easier the load, which you were able to get last year, isn't available anymore. It's non-existent. There's not on the power lanes. I'm not saying like it's non-existent, like you can't occasionally find it, because even a broke clock is right twice a day. But you need to think outside of the box here and again, reshift a little bit of your strategy. And yeah, Xavier Campos, you're right, man. Orange shirt game. Hit him up, guys. Sonny Sharma, that's right. Orange shirt gang in the house. Jeremy Reed, negotiate. I agree, man. And I know we just got a couple minutes left here, but dude, I'm this fucking Slink, dude, just Google Slink IO CEO. Just Google him if you want a good fucking laugh. This guy just won't stay out of the news. So just recently the board suspended him. They've pretty much put him in timeout because of all of his antics and everything. And there's some reports that came out this morning that he's retaliated after his suspension. Fucking A, dude, I just got a good laugh out of that. I just think, like, again, you guys, you know that how they say success leaves clues. I also think failure leaves clues as well. And this is, if you ever want to know how not to operate as a CEO or fucking even as a human being, just read up on this, man. Dude, I should start doing like a bonehead executive of the week or something like that to bring some humor into this show. Cause goddamn, I just laugh. I feel bad. I feel bad for the Slink employees. I truly do. in some of these instances, because you can never choose your boss in some, but fucking A, man, this guy's just leaving out a fucking playbook of what not to do. But hey, guys, that's it for today. I appreciate all of you who showed up. I know it's a little bit later. We'll be back at our normal time tomorrow, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central. The Freight Coach Morning Show is the top morning show in transportation, coming to you live every single weekday to break down industry headlines and provide some actual fucking insight instead of some clickbait headlines to drive some fear into you, because we're all about keeping the 97% of this industry, which is small business, who want to live their American dream, which is why I have that American flag behind me every single day, because I believe in America. We are the greatest country on earth, and we are back here to keep everybody employed in business and thriving in any freight market out there. I appreciate you guys all so much, and we'll be talking to you.